Okay, so picture this. You show up at work, coffee in hand, ready to tackle the day, and bam, you're Skype for Business. It's just gone.
Gone.
Yeah, like not just glitching out, but like kaput, done.
Okay, dramatic, but I see where you're going with this. We're diving into the whole end of support thing for Skype, for Business Server, right? Microsoft's been dropping these announcements.
Exactly. Is this like a real sky is falling situation, or do we have some breathing room?
Well, let's just say the sky isn't falling like today, but there is a date circled on the calendar, October 14th, 2025. That's the final curtain for Skype for Business Server, at least according to Microsoft. They've been hinting at this for a while, but these recent announcements, they lay it all out, like the timeline, what your options are.
So less of a sudden blackout, more like they're slowly dimming the lights to nudge everyone towards the exit.
Exactly. And they've even given us a roadmap. Or maybe an escape route is a better analogy.
Okay, I like that.
They cover everything. Server 2015, 2019, even those client versions we've been using, like the 2016 and 2019 releases. But before we all panic, let's break it down. What does this actually feel like for the everyday user come October 15th, 2025?
Right, because they're not like flipping a switch and cutting off the power, right?
Yeah.
My work laptop, this thing's ancient, but it still turns on.
You're right. The systems themselves, they don't just vanish into thin air. But here's the catch. No more updates. No bug fixes, and this is the big one, no security patches.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's like imagine using your phone, but there's this known security flaw, and you can't get the update to fix it. Every day you use it, it's a risk.
Okay, yeah, that's a little unnerving.
Exactly. Same idea here, just on a much larger scale.
Okay, starting to feel that ticking clock now.
In there.
So if sticking with these versions long term is out, what's the alternative? Everything I'm reading makes it sound like Microsoft is really pushing Teams like hard.
It's pretty obvious that Teams is their golden child now. It's their big vision for the future of how businesses communicate. And if you're already on Microsoft 365, in the cloud, it's a pretty straightforward move. They call it a single hop migration.
Single hop.
Basically, if you're already on the cloud path, you're just hopping over to a new platform.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about those of us who are, for whatever reason, sticking with on-premise solutions? Are we just out of luck?
This is where it gets interesting. Microsoft knows that not everyone is ready or even able to just jump to the cloud. So they're throwing a bit of a curveball. They're introducing a subscription edition, but it's specifically for on-premise users.
Wait, a subscription edition, but on-premise? That seems kind of contradictory. What's the deal with that?
It is a bit of a head-scratcher at first. It's basically Microsoft saying, look, we get it. You're not ready for the cloud just yet. So here's this on-premise version to tide you over, but don't get too comfy.
Okay, so it's like a temporary fix.
Essentially, it gives those on-premise folks a way to keep things running, without having to make that leap to the cloud, at least not immediately.
All right, so we've got our two main paths then. Embrace the cloud with Teams, or hold on to that on-premise life raft a little longer with this subscription edition. But I imagine the upgrade process itself probably depends on where you're starting from, right? Like, if you're already running a newer version of Skype for Business Server, that's got to be easier than someone who's still clinging to like a 2015 setup. They say it's like choosing your adventure. But instead of dragons and wizards, it's firewalls and server migrations. So walk us through these upgrade paths here. Which one is the easy mode and which one is more like a high-stakes quest?
Okay, so let's start with the good news. If you're already running Server 2019, you're in luck. There's a direct upgrade path to this new subscription edition.
Direct meaning?
You're basically just moving from one version of on-premise to another, staying put, but with a new coat of paint, so to speak.
Sounds relatively painless. But for those folks still holding on to Server 2015, I'm guessing it's not that simple.
You're right on that one. For those users, it's a two-step process. They'll need to upgrade to Server 2019 first, what Microsoft calls a legacy upgrade.
Okay, hold on a sec. I know we've been throwing around some technical terms here.
Uh-huh.
So for our listeners who might not be fluent in IT speak, what does a legacy upgrade actually mean? And more importantly, how much of a headache are we talking about?
Good point. It can sound scarier than it is. Basically, a legacy upgrade means you're bringing your older system up to date with a more recent version. Think of it like hopping on a train that's still running, but it might not be the newest model or going express speed.
Okay, so not ideal, but better than nothing, especially with that clock ticking down.
Exactly. It buys them some time. But it makes that October 2025 deadline even more critical, because then they've got to transition again from Server 2019 to the subscription edition. It's a tight squeeze for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. And it really highlights why planning ahead is so important, especially because these big IT overhauls, they're not exactly known for being quick or painless. I'm getting flashbacks to our company's last big software migration. Yikes. But, I can't resist a little digging, and I stumbled across something called the Skype for Business Technology Adoption Program, or TTA for short. Sounds like a pretty exclusive club. What's the deal with this mysterious program?
Ah, yes, the TA. It's like we've uncovered a secret society within Microsoft. This program, it's specifically designed for those really dedicated on-premise users, the ones who really want to be on the cutting edge of this subscription edition.
So not just early access, but they actually get to test out and give feedback on the subscription edition before it's released to the public.
You got it. It's like being a beta tester, but with more say. These TAPE team members, they get early builds of the software, they test them out, they give direct feedback to the Microsoft development team.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like having a seat at the chef's table while they're still perfecting the recipe. That level of access, I bet that's incredibly valuable for those really big organizations or those with really specific needs.
Absolutely. And honestly, the fact that Microsoft even has this program, that they're willing to give this level of access and influence to these on-premise users, it tells you something about their commitment to this subscription edition. They're clearly taking it very seriously.
That's a really good point. This isn't just some quick fix. They're really putting in the effort to get it right for those folks. But, this whole Skype situation got me thinking, is this a one-off thing? Or is Microsoft on a roll with these end-of-life announcements? What else is on the horizon? Yeah. It's like that feeling when you find out your favorite band is breaking up and then you hear they're all going solo.
Oh, yeah.
What's next?
Right. Well, in this case, buckle up, because this isn't just about Skype. Buried in these announcements is news about Exchange Server.
You're kidding.
Nope. End of life, October 2025, same date as Skype for Business.
Hold on. So it's not just how we're video chatting, but our email, too. That's a lot of change at once.
It's a big deal. And we can't forget about Office Suite's 2016 and 2019 versions. Those are going too. It's pretty clear that Microsoft's making a big push towards the cloud.
Yeah, they're not being subtle about it either. So this isn't just a Skype thing. It's a whole strategy.
Exactly.
But for our listeners who might be thinking, okay, but I'm not in IT, this doesn't affect me, is that the right attitude to have?
I'd say knowledge is power. Even if you're not the one down in the server room at 3 a.m. wrestling with cables.
Right.
Imagine being the one on your team who's like, hey, did anyone else hear about this Exchange Server thing? Might be time to rethink how we manage projects next year. Being aware means you can ask the right questions.
Because knowing the deadline is one thing, but then there's that whole what are we going to do about it conversation.
Exactly. And that can get messy fast if people aren't prepared.
Okay, so big takeaway for everyone listening, even if you zone out for the rest of this, what's the one thing they should do right now?
Start asking questions. Seriously. Even if you think it doesn't impact you, this has a ripple effect. Knowing your options, understanding that timeline, that's powerful. And who knows, maybe this whole shift will actually help you discover some new tools, new ways of working that you hadn't even thought of before.
It's like being forced to finally upgrade your old phone.
It's annoying at first, but then you realize there are all these cool features you'd been missing out on.
Exactly. It's all about perspective. Yes, there are changes coming, but those changes also bring opportunities. Opportunities to reevaluate, to try new things, to innovate. And hey, maybe even have a little fun while we're at it.
From panicked to pumped, that's the power of a good deep dive. All right, everyone, we'll let you get back to your regularly scheduled programming until the next tech surprise pops up, that is.